I think anime and the DNA of anime that is in Jeff Matsuda's art style really became the portal to the attitude and the tone and the storytelling.
Bruce Timm's design theory, right, is to simplify and to dummy-proof things. Jeff's design theory is, I don't want to do something that's normal. You know, I want to use shapes that are distinct.
Those more extreme visual interpretations of the character lend themselves to weirdness, and it gave us license, I think, to push this sort of comedic, bizarre elements of the show in a way that Batman the Animated Series couldn't as a more realistic, gritty drama.
I'm the Batman. Hey guys, welcome to Warping Fist. I mean Blueknight Beyond. Fuck! If you were a kid growing up in the early 2000s, you probably watched shows like Teen Titans, Static Shock, Justice League Unlimited, Ben 10, Spectacular Spider-Man, or Samurai Jack. But if you're like me, you probably watched this show growing up in the early 2000s.
You're watching the Batman on Boomer Action.
Aired on September 11, 2004, and ended on March 8 of 2008, with a total of 5 seasons and a spin-off movie. You could say this show was a success, but how would this show stand out from other Batman media and grab the attention to fans, giving its weird and bizarre art style and different voice casts, like replacing Kevin Conway for a more younger voice for the character?
Don't get caught in the rain without your straitjacket. Stop this thing, Joker. Life or living death.
But most importantly, how would this show be compared to BTAS, which, to this day, is recognized as one of the most definitive takes on the character in all of media. In this video, we'll be taking a deep dive into the early development in the show, as well as some cut content and some rejected ideas. Grab a seat and like and share the video as we take a deep dive into the Batman cartoon. Play the intro.
Anyone we know could be a robot. Kick his head off. You kick his head off.
Attempt to do any such thing, and I assure you, there will be no hot buttered raisin scones for either of you for a year.
Only Alfred sounds that much like Alfred. Yup.
When creating a Batman show, you have to make sure that it stands out and is different enough so that it doesn't feel like a remake or something the fans have already seen before. Luckily, the team behind the Batman understood this fully, with Linda M. Stevner, Jeff Musada, Glenn Murgaffey, and later Alan Burnett as producers on the show. With the help of Jeff Musada as art director, Joe Lopez as character designer, Nolan Opener for background design, Jeff Wrong for props, and Dave McCad in coloring. I hope I said those names right. I probably didn't, and you know what? Shut up. The first 2 seasons of The Batman would tackle Batman's 3rd year on the job and would introduce Batman's classic villains: Joker, Catwoman, Riddler, Penguin, Clue Master, Mr. Freeze, Spellbinder, Killer Croc, and Scarface. The show will also introduce 2 new characters, Ethan Bennett, who later became Clayface, and Detective Yen, who later teams up with Batman in Season 2. The first 2 seasons of the show were great, as we see a younger Batman struggling to take down his villains for the first time. Bane breaking the Bat's bones in episode 2 of the series, and has to build a robot suit in order to take him down. Or Mr. Freeze just absolutely destroying Batman, and making him question if he's doing the right thing for Gotham City and his war on crime.
Criminal. Like the rest. I should give it up.
When looking at the early concept art for Mr. Freeze, we could see the team wanted to stay away from BTAS design as much as possible. As you see here, they were going for more of a skinny look for the character, and instead of having the glass-shaped head like in BTAS, they were going for more of a gas-type design for his head, as seen here. Thankfully, the final version of Mr. Freeze's design is what we got, and it looks way better. Instead of having the gas forming around his head, they opted for more of a ice crystal for his head, and they still kept Mr. Freeze's skinny look in his final look. It would be interesting to see this design maybe used somewhere else. Maybe they could use this for an enemy type for a future Batman game? Who knows? We're looking at Season 1 and Season 2's designs for characters. They either look identical for the final design, or a complete 180 from the early designs of the character. The Penguin is a great example of a character who had the most change in his design on the show. In one version, he looks more like a gentleman with normal human hands, instead of the Tim Burton design in Batman Returns. This design of the character looks kinda similar to that seen in the New Adventures of Batman. Another design of the Penguin, which was revealed in the book The Definitive History of the Dark Knight in comics, film, and beyond, has more of a Japanese style where he appears not as small, but his appearance is more massive than most incarnations of the character. We also see him holding a Japanese-style umbrella, which doesn't appear to be functional, unlike the show. In the end, we have a version that is unlike anything we have ever seen before. This version of the Penguin is more deadly than most incarnations of the character, having an umbrella that shoots out fire, missiles, and can turn into a jet-powered rocket, a helicopter, a blade, or chains that can sometimes shoot out electricity. Not to mention he can jump high and keep up with the Dark Knight. Seriously, how is this fat little midget able to jump so high and is able to keep up with Batman? Seriously, I'm like 5'8" and this guy is able to jump like he's Mario. That sounded like a flex, like I'm somehow taller. I'm not tall. I'm very short. Of course, the Penguin was the only character who had their look changed drastically. The Riddler in his early design had a drastic change in his early look to his final design. In his early design, instead of going for a slimmer look, the team aimed for a bigger look of the character than other variations of the character. As you see here, the character is entirely covered up in fabric, showing no skin at all, with green question marks spread around the costume. We also see that he was originally going to have tiny green men serving as his henchmen. The henchmen were either going to be covered up in cloth or appeared more gentlemanly. Thankfully, the team didn't go this route and instead went for a goth look for the character. But they did use the design for Clue Master, and let's be honest, it's just Nick Audicato under that mask. Eddie in this show has long black hair and wears a dark green spandex suit with his arms showing a little bit of his skin, and instead of having a million question marks on his costume, he has one big question mark located on his chest. He also wears dark makeup, but only around his mouth, giving him his complete goth look. However, this version of the character has more of a tragic story than most incarnations, going to a university where he invented these Memory Plus patch that allows people to get smarter. Sadly, one of them goes wrong and gets blamed for it. What's even worse about this backstory is that the person who he thought understood him was only using him to get rich. In my opinion, this origin of the Riddler is more satisfying to me. In the comics, the Riddler would cheat to solve their problem, which only made me think the Riddler wasn't smart but a cheater.
My father hated me. Always called me a moron. I was determined to prove him wrong, so I entered a contest at school. A $20 prize to the kid who could figure out an almost impossible logic problem. I won, of course.
And that pleased your father?
Hardly. He was convinced I had cheated. He kept yelling, "You must have cheated! Admit it, you moron! You cheated!" I swore I didn't, and he hit me for lying.
I'm sorry to hear that, Edward.
Don't be. He was right.
And his motivation on the show made more sense to me, only driven by revenge and puzzles, instead of the origin where he gets fired by a CEO over a contract deal that Eddie himself signed. Like, come on Eddie, how did you not notice this? You're a genius. That's your fault for not reading and understanding how contracts work. It was rumored that Marlon Mason was originally cast to voice the Riddler, which could explain the Riddler's design. However, he decided to drop out and was replaced by Robert Englund, who is famously known as playing Freddy Krueger. Note that this is just a rumor and that I could not find any solid information if Marlon Mason was originally cast to voice the Riddler, so take this as a grain of salt. Spellbinder, another classic Batman villain, who first appeared back in December of 1966 in Detective Comics issue 358. In his first appearance, he wore these random patterns on his costume. Like, seriously, how am I supposed to describe this costume to you guys? My eyes hurt just by looking at it.
For fuck's sake. It's disgusting. What is that? What am I looking at?
He was later revamped in Batman Beyond wearing a full orange bodysuit with black zebra lines on the costume. He later was revamped again in the Batman 2004 cartoon. Now, Spellbinder went through several design changes during the production of the show. One of the ideas they were thinking of going for was a skull design that went through several changes, but ultimately decided to drop it out. The only one consistent with these sketches were the cape and the third eye. The third eye went through several changes before landing with this. In this concept, we can see the cape was originally going to be colored white, before changing it to be a red color. When looking at the final version of Spellbinder, it sort of reminds me of Doctor Strange with his cape. Plus, both characters have third eyes on their forehead. Vicky Vale, who only appeared in the Batman vs. Dracula movie, which is a great movie to watch. It may not top Phantasm or Return of the Joker movie, but it's still a great movie to watch.
That's one good-looking corpse.
Hi, how are you?
Vicky Vale went through several design changes, with the team giving her black hair, which she has had before in the Batman Telltale games. We also see that they were thinking of giving her blonde hair, which in my opinion is way better than the final product. In the end, the team gave her long red hair, which is a nod to her golden age look, or a reference to Jim Lee's art.
Nice.
Of course, the last character we have to discuss about is Batman. When looking at the early concept art for Batman, we can see not much was changed in his final look. Batman in the show wears a gray and black costume with the added blue highlights to the costume. He's also the only animated Batman to ever have his cape cover up the entire screen, a nice reference to Todd McFarlane's art on Batman. I tried to recreate it to see what it would look like using Jeff Masuda's art style. Let me know how I did. As for the cowl, well, I'll just let Jeff Masuda explain it to you guys.
The approach that I took when designing him was that I gave him sort of like a boxer's face. He has more of like a crooked nose. The biggest sweeping change would probably be I changed his cowl from being, the profile you could see his brow and his nose. So it's more like a bowl. It's like a cereal bowl. If you want to make the Batman cowl for yourself, you just take a cereal bowl, spray paint it black, make sure it fits on your head, and you just put two big eye slits. That's really all it is.
As for the show's later season, his look would be modified in season 4, making his chin broader and squarer, and he later dons his Dark Knight Returns costume in a future episode.
Day it ends. This dance can't go on forever.
This is unbearably cool.
Remember, easy gestures. Let the suit do the work.
As with any show, a lot of stuff had to be cut or just scrapped away. In the first episode, The Bat and the Belfry, there was a deleted scene where we would have seen the laughing fish, a nice reference to Detective Comics issue 475, or an episode of BTAS. The reason we didn't get to see it was due to time and it had to be cut. The show also had to cut a lot of characters due to the Bat embargo at the time. For those who don't know what the Bat embargo was, it was an embargo that was created by DC Comics back in the early 2000s, when Batman-related characters could only appear in one project at a time. For example, if they wanted to use Scarecrow in Batman Begins, then he couldn't be used in the Batman cartoon, which is exactly what happened. The team behind the Batman wanted to use Scarecrow in the show, and even made this character design for him. It's quite shameful that they didn't use Scarecrow in the show, because I think he would have worked well in this style of the show. Now, the team did try to use Scarecrow in numerous ways. In one episode titled Strange New World, they wanted to use Scarecrow in that episode, but again, he couldn't be used because he was in the Dark Knight movie and had to be replaced by Hugo Strange. But it is cool to see a what-if scenario if we did get Scarecrow on the show. However, Scarecrow wasn't the only character who couldn't be allowed on the show. Characters like Mad Hatter, Ra's al Ghul, and Two-Face There was even discussion to use Wonder Woman and Aquaman on the show. Unfortunately for Wonder Woman, they couldn't use her because of her dumb rule at the time where she wasn't allowed to appear in any projects unless she was the main character. As for Aquaman, I don't know, maybe there were some legal issues with him at the time. I think one of the most confusing characters is Mad Hatter. You see, he wasn't allowed to be on the show, but he didn't appear in the Nolan films or any other projects. I couldn't find any reason why he wasn't allowed to be used. Hello, you've made it to the end. I want to thank you all for watching this video. It really means a lot to me, especially this cartoon growing up as a kid. This is a cartoon that I watched growing up as a kid back in the early 2000s, and is what got me into Batman in the first place, so I felt like I had to make this video. And it was a fun topic to talk about because I know not a lot of people really discuss about the Batman 2004 cartoon as much as BTAS, and I hope that with this video that people will get to talk about it more and maybe behind the scenes. I bet there's more behind the scenes that I didn't go over, or there's some topics I didn't know. But yeah, I want to say thank you for all for watching this. Sorry it took me so long to make this. A lot of stuff happened, but you know, I'm gonna get back into the YouTube grind as much as I can. I'm gonna try to upload as much as possible and all that stuff, and yes, thank you for watching, and hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.